Don't fall for these fear-mongers. Please, 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 please. A lot of people are going to scare you the living bejesus out of you on inflation. They're gonna. And you're going to say, yeah, but Josh, don't you know? I get it 100%. But they're going to use fake graphs because either they're ignorant. Ignorant just means they don't know, or they're trying to lie with statistics. Bill Gates talked about Bill Gates, yeah. Melvin P. Bill Gates, yeah. Talked about how to lie with statistics. My man Anomaly read a book that Bill Gates mentioned on reading that and how to lie with statistics. And sadly, we got a lot of ignorant people out in this realm and who talk financial stuff who they don't have the chops to do that. Now, they might have chops to talk other stuff, I grant you. And it's kind of like me when I start talking about energy and stuff like that. Like I made a mistake on a 100 amp hour battery the other day, and it was just simple. I just forgot. But some of you guys, probably a dozen of you guys corrected me on that, and I was more than eager to say, ooh, I made a mistake. But anyway, when it comes to inflation stuff, so the point is this guy had put something out there on CPI, showing basically there's hardly any CPI, any inflation from like 1913 to 1971. I think that's when Bretton Woods and when they got off the gold window. I can't remember. I think it was 71 under Nixon. And then just is spiking. I was like, oh, it's such an infantile mistake to make. Come on. So you got to log that. And so I said, dude, you got to log it because if we're talking percentages, the percentage of 1 to 2 is the same percentages of 2 to 4, which is the same percentages of 4 to 8. I'm going to show you some examples of theirs in just a second. All right, hold on a second. Finnegan, loudmouth McGee, come here, baby. Come here. Come here, loudmouth. What's up? Anytime you're using a graph that's not logged, that's just linear, it's always going to look scary on the far right of the graph. And again, I'll show you some examples of this. But as a percentage base, which is all that matters, it's not nearly as scary as you think. And again, ignorant people will use this to scare you because they don't know better, or people who have I'm not going to say more on that. It's frustrating me. All right, so let me show you an example. We're going to look at the Fed. So here's a CPI from, this only goes back to 1947. And you can see, oh my goodness, hardly any inflation back then. Obviously, you haven't read my book if you think there's hardly any inflation back then. Then we see this little pike right here. Then look at this huge inflation from 1980, from 1970 when they got off the gold window from Nixon and Bretton Woods. Oh my goodness. All right, so remember, we got 0 to 40, 40 to 80. So again, the next one, if we log this, 40 to 80, 80 to 160, 160 to 320 would be the same scale. But because it's not the same scale, it makes it look dramatic over here. I cannot stress how this is used against you. Again, 40 to 80 is the same percentage as 80 to 160, which is the same percentage as 160 to 320. But you see how that stretches? It's kind of like the Mercator map. It makes Greenland and Alaska look huge, and they're not as big as they are. It's the same thing as the Mercator map. Are you familiar with that? Mercator, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Mercator map, whatever it is. Again, 40 to 80, that's a 100% increase. Another 100% increase, if we log this, would be 80 to 160, 160 to 320. But because it's not logged, it's linear, we're stretching out. So Greenland looks huge. It's not that big. So we're going to go to Edit Graph here. Mercator map, whatever. Yeah, Mercator map. And we're going to show you what it looks like in a log scale. And then you say, oh, huh. So we can see from 1970 to 1982, we did have big inflation. Could you attribute that to the getting rid of the gold window? That's freaking stupid, man. We had all kinds of stuff going on back to the side. First of all, we had Medicare in 1965. That started the inflation. We had Vietnam on top of that. You can attribute some of that to gold window. But the gold window stayed closed is right here when inflation somewhat leveled off. Did it not? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So now we have this jump in inflation. Well, that's big. Don't get me wrong. I hate paying more for food too, 100%. But this is the inflation we had right there in the 70s. The Keynesian economics crowd was really in control there. Nixon, remember Nixon said we're all Keynesians now. Nixon said that. Not Carter. Nixon said we're all Keynesians now. Carter, on the other hand, came in and started deregulating things, so it had a leveling off of inflation. It had nothing to do with interest rates, just FYI. All right, let's use another one. We're looking at S&P 500. All right, this is the macro trends. Yeah, macro trends. Oh my goodness, look at that jump. There's hardly any growth right here from 1928 to 1983. And then we're like that. Okay, now let's log this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to log it. Actually, let's even get it without inflation. Look at, there, it's even better. Oh my goodness, look at, there's no growth in these years. And then just from right there, 1982, it took off. Yeah, okay, let's log that puppy. Oh, a lot different in it. Yeah, that looks more linear, isn't it? Well, it's not linear because 10 to 100 is the same as 100 to 1,000, which is the same as 1,000 to 10,000. Again, if we go back, not log, look, see the difference there? See the difference? See how scoundrels could try to scare you? Look at that. A whole lot different, isn't it? Yes, it is. So basically what scoundrels will say is you didn't make any money in here, and they're freaking wrong, dude. In fact, we know for a fact, leaf blowers, that the S&P 500 from 1946 to 1968 so dominated bonds, there's no coming back from that. If you ever look at bonds versus stocks, and you include those 22 years, bonds will never outdo stocks. That's how badly the S&P 500 beat down bonds from 1946 to 1968. So, but did you not make any money? You certainly did. Even you made money during these times right here, which scoundrel right here, 1948 to 1946 to 1968, the S&P 500 destroyed the bond market and made tons of money. But again, if we don't look at it as a log, you would think that, oh, there's no money to be made. And yet you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. Look at that. From 1942, but it's actually from the bond market right there, 1948. Look at that. It's nuts. Nuts. And that's what you want to see. All right, let's keep going again. We'll look at the housing cost. Median sales price for homes going back to 1963. Oh my goodness, look, they hardly grew up at all. Look at that. Oh my goodness, hardly anything has stayed in the same, I don't know, quadrant or whatever that is. Yeah, it was a quintwit. I don't know what it'd be. But you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. You can stay in the same category from right there to right there until 1987. And then it just took off. Look at that. Oh my goodness, I can't afford a house anymore. Oh. If we log it, doesn't look nearly as bad now, does it? No, it does not. Look at that. See a huge jump. Oh, wait, a huge jump when the interest rates are higher, too. How could that possibly be? That's impossible. Interest rates just decline the value of the homes. Look at that. Oh, it's so freaking stupid. I not only I don't mind ignorance. I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff. You got to learn. You learn by asking questions. I got no qualm. I'm not too proud to ask questions. But I can't stand when people think they know something they don't. And then on top of that, they'll sit back at you and say, bleh, you're an idiot. I'd never do wealth planning from you. I was like, well, that's not really a rebuttal there, guy. That's just being kind of being a clown, to be totally honest with you. But I get it. You know? I mean, I'm sure some of you guys are like, Josh, you do the same thing. I don't think I do. Not in that regard. All right. What else we wanted? We did house. I already did inflation. We did house prices. We did what else? Again. Let me show you something else here too. Say they changed CPI, so we're only using cheap cuts of meat. We're not using steaks and whatnot, and it's just so friggin' stupid. It's ignorance, and I hate that crap. Because it's all based on fear-mongering. We want to scare you so you buy Bitcoin. We want to scare you so you stay at your crappy old job. We want to scare you so you put more into your 401k when you don't need to. We want to scare you. And it freaking ticks me off, not going to lie to you. So here's the CPI, all right, based on May of 2023. Let's take a gander, shall we? Do they not use good cuts of meat? Let's take a look, shall we? Let's go down to, because remember, the BLS is based on, the CPI is based on the Consumer Expenditure Survey. They survey thousands of Americans to see what they're spending their money on to get a gauge of how they allocate the weightings for CPI. Read my new book. If you have, you can read all you want. You should, and you should read it more than once because there's so much gravy in there. It'll rock your socks, man. All right, so here we got food at home. All right, cereals, meats, poultry, fish, and eggs. All right, so we're like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a good cut of meat. Oh, okay, let's keep on going down. Food at home, cereals, meats, poultry, fish, and eggs. Meats, poultry, fish. Meats, beef and veal. Uncooked ground beef. Uncooked beef roast. Uncooked beef steaks. Uncooked other beef. Pork, bacon, ham, pork chops, frankfurts, lunch meats, poultry, chicken, fish. See, that's all what we spend our money on. So the idea that the CPI doesn't use good quality cuts of meat, are they using prime? Are they using choice? I don't know, but they're using steaks. They're using roast. They're using ground chuck. They're using all that stuff. They're using fish. They're using poultry. They're using ham. These people have this infatuation with hating on CPI and inflation, and I don't get it, man. It's weird. They either got to be Republicans who hate Joe Biden, or Democrats when Trump's in office, or they're going to be people just are ignorant, and that's the only thing. Again, ignorant just means they don't know, but they're just up to no good. I don't understand it, man. I don't get it, dude. Trust me. I got a family of 6 and 2 dogs. You think I don't know what inflation is? Of course I do. But to sit there and say, oh my goodness, since they got rid of the gold standard, inflation's gone through the roof, is freaking idiotic. It's idiotic. And to sit there and say, or even worse, because look, I get it, man. I don't like the government any more than anyone else does. But don't don't make the, what do they say? Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good or something like that. Dude, it's a big world out there. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Obviously, we don't want you to have debt. Obviously, you want to keep your expenditures under control 100%. Obviously, we don't want you leasing a car for $900 a month and doing it every 2 years. I get all that. But man, listen to these fear mongers. It's insane. So inflation is so bad, and then they'll say take Social Security at 62. I'm like, this is insanity, man. It's insanity. Inflation, so take Social Security at 62. I'm like, what? I don't get it. It's based on the need to say how bad these other people are. And the other people are big government. The other people are your political opponents. The other people are the realists, because I'm a realist. I live in the reality. And then, of course, I wrote back, I said, yeah, because I wrote a comment. I said, I bet when you were my age, you never flew. You know why? Because we couldn't afford it. I bet you never had color TV. I bet you didn't have air conditioning. I bet you didn't have a microwave. I bet you had a fridge, probably a small one at that. I bet you didn't have an ice box. No, I don't know. I didn't have any of these things. We had a fridge. You know what I'm saying? I bet sometimes it's hard to pay for the heat. I bet. And yet we had, what does everyone have now? Everyone's fat because they have more food they can possibly look at. They have cable TV. They don't have just 3 hots and a cot. They got everything. And it infuriates me. It infuriates me when people push propaganda just to scare people into doing things that they don't need to do. Now, if you want to go Bitcoin, I don't care. It's kind of like what I said about, if you want to take the vax, I don't care. I was at my PCP today. I said, no vax for me. And she kind of made a laugh like, you don't know what you're missing. I said, like, I don't care. That's fine. I'm not taking it. No, because she has, you got to take your Hep B or influenza, this vax, that vax, that. I said, nope, not for this guy. You can do it there, sister, but not me. And then, of course, she had to stick her finger in my butt to prostate exam, and prostate. And apparently, I'm healthy prostate. My EKJ is fine, so I'm good to go there. Still probably need to lose about 5 more. I'm down to 185. If I could get to 180, I'd be in good. I'd be in fighting shape at that stage. But what else did she? Oh, I got to go back and get my blood work done tomorrow because I didn't fast. But anyway, the point being is, instead of putting your ire over here, over things you can't control, put your ire over here at things you can, like your spending habits. You're eating too much crap. It's just, man. And I was talking to, we'll just call her someone from Williamsport, Pennsylvania today. She knows who she is. And she has a little bit of revenue from an outside source, and she's worried that they're going to take it away. No, and we were talking about it. She's great. She crushes. I said, yeah, but there's nothing to do about that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you can worry about it, but don't like wake up at night, in a blinding sweat thinking they're going to take that revenue source away. First, I don't think they're going to. Second of all, there's nothing you can do about it. And third of all, if they do that, we'll have to make adjustments. But if that revenue stream stops, and it's not likely to happen, then we'll have to accommodate that. But to sit there and she's not doing this, by the way. We're just having a conversation about this. Because if they did take that revenue stream, it'd be bad for her. Another reason I said you should wait till take Social Security later, just in case that were to happen. You know what I'm saying? But don't make these plans today based on something that is not likely to happen and is completely out of your control anyway. That doesn't make sense. And you certainly, I'm going to work another 5 years because they're off the gold standard. I'm like, huh? And then people say price of gold, and they'll say gold's a hedge against inflation. And in some regard, that's right, but it certainly wasn't from 1981 until today. It just wasn't, man. So remember, it was illegal to trade in gold from FDR until Nixon. It was illegal. So that's 40 years. So you had a cap on gold. So the minute you leave that cap, it shakes off. It happens all the time. Anytime you get rid of a price control, if you got rid of price controls in rent in New York City, it'd take off for a little bit. People say, see, we need price controls, and then level off. Probably go down after that. You put a price control on something, you're capping that. It's just got this energy. It wants to explode. And once you take the cap off, it explodes. And people say, see, we should have kept the price control on there. But they don't recognize that. Give it a little bit of time. They'll come back to what's the word I'm looking for? A middle of the road thing where it makes sense. Same thing happened to gold. Again, it was illegal. So once they made it legal, people were, and then all of a sudden they said, all right, 1981 came around. Remember, the price of gold topped out, I think it was 1980 if memory serves. That was well before we whipped inflation now. You know what I'm saying? And then it started coming down. And that has literally, there was no inflation hedge in gold from 1980 to about 2012 if memory serves. I can't remember. But I might be wrong in that regard. But from 1980 to basically, I almost want to say 2012, there was no inflation hedge for gold. But maybe it was a little bit more than that, earlier than that, because I remember 2000, the odds gold mutual funds took off through the roof. So, but either way, there wasn't a hedge against inflation there. And people always say, well, gold, an ounce of gold will buy you a nice suit. And I 100% I get that. Absolutely. Will an ounce of gold buy you an ounce of gold? I mean, but first of all, you can't trade it very well. You know, it's hard to barter with gold. I mean, what I mean by that, you can't make change or anything like that. So I like gold. You should have some. But this idea that gold and or Bitcoin will solve your inflation issue is just silly. Because inflation issue will be solved if we get the hell out of the way and let the free markets work. 100%. You see what's going on with Zuckerberg with his thread thing. I don't care about Zuckerberg. I don't care about Elon Musk. They're all fake in terms of they're all put there by outside sources, 100%. But, you know, Zuckerberg said there's an opportunity to compete against Twitter. He's opened up a thing. More power to him. I'm not getting on either. But at the end of the day, this is how free markets work. The opportunity presents itself when people get involved, and next thing you know, the prices come down without question. Now, do the prices go up on a gradual basis? Sure, absolutely. Some things do, some things don't. Depends about the trade, depends about the labor market, depends about all kinds of free flow of energy. Do we allow cheap energy? It's always about energy. It's never about the Fed. It's always about energy. And this is the issue with clowns who say, oh my goodness, inflation from 1970 to 2000 gone up exponentially. It's freaking idiotic. Especially when they show a graph where it's basically leveling off from 1913 to 1970. It's stupid. Stupid. It's always about energy. Why did inflation happen so high in the 1970s? Energy. Shocking. All right, love your thoughts. We're going to go live tonight with BB and Gary. They moved out of a... oh, there's Pablo. You want to come up there? Yeah, Pablo wants to say hello. They moved out of their corporate life and into a homestead life, and now they're raising moo cows and whatnot, and they're crushing. So be there at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys. And again, if you like what I do, you want to support the channel, you can buy me a cup of coffee. It's in the show notes. And you can join my locals channel, too. We go live Wednesday and Saturday, 8 p.m., $5 a month. We'd love to have you. See you.